Good morning, students. Today, let us discuss about the locomotion in protozoa. Before going for the locomotion, let us recall about the protozoa. Proto means primitive, zoa means animals. So, the most primitive unicellular microscopic organisms are included in the phylum Protozoa. The term protozoa was coined by Goldfuss. So, these protozoans, though they are unicellular and microscopic, to your surprise, they are provided with different locomotory organs and as well as exhibiting the different types of locomotion. Now the question will come, what is this locomotion? Is there any difference between the locomotion and movement? Definitely there is a difference. Movement is the change in the position of the body parts. So we will say my hand is moving, my head is moving, or I am moving my head. But I won't say that my hand is locomoting or my head is locomoting. Then what is locomotion? In the locomotion, there will be change in the position of the entire body of the animal. In the movement, only there is a change in position of certain body parts. But in the locomotion, there will be change in the position of total body. That's why we can define that the locomotion is the movement of an animal from one place to another place. For what purpose they are locomoting? Mainly for the purpose of food, shelter, and protection. And of course, sometimes for the purpose of reproduction also, they will undergo the phenomena called as locomotion. In the case of protozoans, there are different types of locomotions, namely, number 1, amoeboid locomotion, which takes place by pseudopodia. And the second one is swimming locomotion, which takes place by flagella and cilia. And the third one is gliding movement, and the fourth one is metabolic movements, which will take place by myonemes. Both gliding and metabolic movement will take place by myonemes. And of course, before going for the study of these different types of locomotion, we must know about the different types of locomotory organs in protozoa. As I said just now, there are different types of locomotory organs, namely, number 1, pseudopodia, number 2, flagella, number 3, cilia, and along with this, the myonemes, which are last but not the least. Now let us see one after the other. Coming to the first one, what is that? Pseudopodia. The name itself is indicating pseudo means false. Podia means foot. So, the pseudopodia are false foot. Now you may ask me, Madam, why they are called as false foot? Because they are the temporary projections. They are not present permanently, but whenever the animal wants to move from one place to another place, then only the pseudopodia are produced. So the pseudopodia are the temporary projections which are formed from the surface of the body by the streaming of the cytoplasm. So because of this temporary nature only, the organisms like amoeba are unable to maintain a constant shape. Why? because pseudopodia are formed and then withdrawn and formed and withdrawn. Because of that, there is no constant shape in the organisms like amoeba. And these pseudopodia, they may be varying in their number. In some organism, only one pseudopodium is formed. Then they are called as monopodial. The best example is Entamoeba histolytica. Whereas in some protozoans like amoeba, several pseudopodia are formed from the surface of the body. Then they are called as polypodial. So the best example for polypodial is amoeba proteus. So in that way, the pseudopodia are the temporary projection which are formed especially in the protozoans belonging to the class Rhizopoda. Which class? Rhizopoda. And there are different types of pseudopodia in the protozoans. Namely, number 1, Lobopodia. Number 2, Philopodia. Number 3, Reticulopodia. And number 4, Axopodia. So, let us see one after the other. Coming to the first one, Lobopodia. Lobopodia are the broad finger-like structures which are blunt and they are provided with rounded tips. How? They are broad, cylindrical and with rounded tips which are formed of both ectoplasm and endoplasm. So we can say simply the Lobopodia are the finger-like pseudopodia with rounded tips. The best example is Amoeba proteus. In amoeba, they are quickly formed and withdrawn. And the second one is Philopodia. Philopodia are the slender, filamentous, thread-like structures which are made up of only ectoplasm. They are made up of only ectoplasm. Of course, sometimes these are branched and sometimes they are unbranched. But let me say one point. Even though they are branched, they are not forming any network-like structures. So the best example is Euglypha and Lecythium. This Euglypha and Lecythium belongs to the order Testacea. That's why they are commonly called as testaceans. And the next one is Reticulopodia or Myxopodia, which are also known as Rhizopodia. So these are also slender, filamentous, thread-like and branched. Not only that, these branches are interconnected with one another and forming a sort of network-like structure. Okay, because they are forming network-like structure, they are regarded as reticulopodia. You know very well, the network is scientifically known as reticulum. That's why they got the name as reticulopodia. And because they are forming the network-like structure, automatically when the water is moving through this reticulopodia, the food particles can be trapped between this network. That's why reticulopodia or myxopodia mainly helping in the food collection, and secondarily they are helping in the locomotion phenomena. So that is the speciality of reticulopodium. And this reticulopodia or myxopodia, they can be observed in the protozoans belonging to the order Foraminifera. What is that? Order Foraminifera. The best example is Elphidium and Globigerina. Elphidium and Globigerina. You can see now in the diagram where in the C labeled diagram, we can see the Elpidium where it is producing the number of reticulopodia which are branching and as well as forming a sort of network-like structure. So because of that network, we are calling it a reticulopodia. And the next one is the axopodia or actinopodia. These are somewhat semi-permanent structures because they are composed of a central axial rod with a sort of cytoplasmic envelope. And these can be observed in the protozoans belonging to the order Heliozoa. And how these are? We can see the name itself is indicating axopodia or actinopodia. Actino means ray-like. So we can see that the pseudopodia will be radiating from the center just like the rays of a sun. So just like the rays of the sun, the pseudopodia will be radiating from the center. That's why the heliozoans are commonly known as sun animalcules. What are they? Sun animalcules. Because of the actinopodia, they are looking like the sun with the rays. That's why they are commonly called as sun animalcules. You can see very clearly in the diagram D, where we can see from the center all the actinopodia are radiating out. So the best example is Actinophis and Actinosphaerium. Not only in Heliozoa, they also found in the order called as Radiolaria. So, heliozoans and radiolarians will show the semi-permanent structures called as axopodia or actinopodia. These are also primarily helping in the food capture and secondarily helping in the locomotion. Now, coming to the next locomotory organ, that is flagella. Flagella. When you come for the flagella are the locomotory organ found in the class Mastigophora. And what is this flagellum? Flagellum is a long whip-like structure which is arising from the anterior end of the body. And generally the flagella will be 1 or 2 or sometimes 4 in number. And because the mastigophoran organisms are showing the flagella, they are commonly known as flagellates. What is the common name? Flagellates. When you see the internal structure of flagellum, we can see that flagellum is composed of a central axial filament called as axoneme. What is that? A central axial rod-like structure is present which is called as axoneme. And this axoneme is covered by a cytoplasmic sheath. And when we see this axoneme, the transverse section, we can see the axoneme is made up of 11 longitudinal fibrils. How many? 11 longitudinal fibrils. Out of these 11 longitudinal fibrils, we can see very clearly in the diagram the 2 fibrils are central in position. Can you see the yellow colored central fibril? They are 2 in number and unpaired. the remaining 9 fibrils, they are present along the periphery, and we can see that they are paired fibers. That means they are doublets present in pairs. You can see one is red in color, which is called as A tubule, and another is yellow in color, which is called as B tubule. So these are called as peripheral fibrils. You can count them. They will be 9 in number. So 2 central unpaired fibrils are present and 9 peripheral paired fibrils are present. And even the central fibrils are also covered by inner cytoplasmic sheath. And we can see very clearly in the diagram that the peripheral fibers are connected to the central fibrils with the help of certain radial spokes. Just like the spokes of a wheel, we can see the A and B tubule, the peripheral fibrils, are connected with the central fibrils with the help of radial spokes. That's how we can see it is made up of 2 central fibrils and 9 peripheral fibrils. That's why it is called as 9+2 arrangement. What is that? 9+2 arrangement means 9 peripheral fibers and 2 central fibrils. So this is how we can see the transverse section of flagellum, and even the cilium will also exhibit the same sort of internal structure. And the flagellum arises from a structure called as basal granule or blepharoblast. What is that? Blepharoblast or basal granule, which is also called as kinetosome, which is generally present in the nucleus or in the cytosol. And we can see that this axoneme all along its length will show some small hair-like structures, which are present on the lateral sides, and that will be called as mastigonemes. What is that? Mastigonemes. And on the presence of these mastigonemes, the flagella are classified. On the basis of mastigonemes, the flagella are classified into 5 types. So let us see what are those 5 types of flagella. Number 1, stichonematic flagellum. What is this stichonematic flagellum? If there are only a single row of mastigonemes on one side of the axoneme. What does that mean? On the axoneme, if the mastigonemes are present in only single row, then we are going to call it as stichonematic flagellum. The best example is Euglena and Astacia. The next one is pantonematic. So here there are 2 rows of mastigoneme present on both the sides of axoneme. So if the mastigonemes are present on both the sides of axoneme, then we are going to call it as pantonematic flagellum. The best example is Paranema and Monas socialis. Paranema and Monas socialis. The third one is acronematic. This is something interesting because there are no mastigonemes. The axoneme will be ending in a terminal filament without any mastigonemes. That's why it is also called as naked flagellum. And the best example is Chlamydomonas and Polytoma. So in the Chlamydomonas and Polytoma, there are no mastigoneme and the flagellum will end in a terminal filament. Sorry, the flagellum is ending in a terminal filament. Then the next one is pentacronematic. The name itself is indicating penta-acronematic. That means it's a combination of both pantonematic and acronematic. What does it mean? Just like the pantonematic, there will be mastigonemes on both the sides of axoneme, and as well as the axoneme will end in a terminal filament without any cytoplasmic sheath. That we'll be calling as pentacronematic. The best example is Arcellus. And the last one is simple or anematic flagella, which is without a terminal filament and without any kind of mastigonemes. That means there are no mastigonemes and no terminal filament. That's why it is called as simple flagella. The best example is Cryptomonas and Chylomonas. So in the diagram we can see very clearly in the strichonematic flagellum, the first one, there are mastigonemes on only one side of the axoneme. In the pantonematic, mastigonemes on both the sides. In the acronematic, there are no mastigonemes but ending in a terminal filament. And the pentacronematic showing the mastigonemes on both the sides and as well as ending in a terminal filament. And the last but not the least diagram is anematic or simple flagellum, where there are no mastigonemes and no terminal filament. Then the next locomotory organ is cilia. They are short hair-like structures which are found in the ectoplasm, and they are found all over the body. And in which protozoan they can be seen? They can be seen in the protozoans belonging to class Ciliata and Suctoria. But let me say, in the Suctoria, they are present only in the larval stage and absent in the adult stage. Because in Suctoria, cilia will be replaced by tentacles in the adult. So, let us see about the cilia. And one more interesting point here is they also help in food capturing along with the locomotion phenomena. What is that? They are helping in locomotion and as well as food capturing. And sometimes even they are acting as the tactile organ. And just like the flagellum, cilia also arise from basal granule, and with reference to the structure, they are similar to flagellum. So just like the flagellum, cilia also will show 9+2 arrangement, like 2 central unpaired fibers and 9 peripheral paired fibers. So almost all same structure will be exhibited by the cilia. And we can see that these cilia in some organisms present all over the body. If they are present all over the body, then they are called as holotricha. The name itself is indicating holo means complete. Tricha means small hair-like structures. So, if they are present all over the body, we will be calling it as holotricha. The best example is paramecium. But if they are present or if they are restricted only to certain regions, then we are going to call it a peritricha. Okay, if they are restricted only to certain regions of the body, then they are called a peritricha. The best example is Verticella. Now I told you that cilium and flagellum are having the same structure, but there are some differences between flagella and cilia. So let us see that one also. For example, when we see the table here, The number one point, flagella may be in number, they are only 1, 2 or in some cases 4 in number. But cilia, they are more in number. Around about 3,000 to 14,000 also can be seen in the various ciliates. And with respect to the length also, a flagellum is about 150 microns in length, whereas cilium is very short, just about 5 to 10 microns in length. And flagella generally found only at one end of the body, either anterior end or posterior end, like that. But in the case of cilia, they are present all over the body surface, or else at a certain specific regions of the body. And with reference to the movement, flagella will produce the angular movement. What is this angular movement? The movements which are produced by the flagellum will be in the form of a wave-like manner, whereas cilia will produce the movement which is similar to the movement of a pendulum of the clock. You can see how the pendulum of a clock move. In that way, the cilium will be producing the pendular movement. And with reference to function, flagella will help purely in locomotion. There is no other function for flagellum, only locomotion. But cilia, as I told you earlier only, they help in locomotion and as well as food capturing also. And flagella, they never will form any compound organelles. But cilia, they can form the compound organelle by undergoing fusion. The cilia are fused to form the compound organelles just like the undulating membranes, membranellae or cirri. Now the last but not the least is the myonemes. So what are these myonemes? In the protozoans, there are some contractile structures which are present in the ectoplasm or pellicle. And these contractile structures are called as myonemes. And of course, they run in various directions in the form of ridges and grooves, for example, as in Euglena, or they may be in the form of microtubules also, as in Trypanosoma. In the Suctorians like Stentor, they are band-like and cross-striated. And these myonemes generally helping in gliding locomotion and metaboly. And let me say one interesting point here is myonemes are helping in altering the shape of the body by the contraction and relaxation. So myonemes will undergo contractions and relaxations, due to which there will be change in their body shape temporarily. So for some time, the protozoans can change their body shape temporarily. Why? In order to pass through the narrow passages, with the help of myoneme, they can change their body shape and pass through the narrow passages. That's how the myonemes are helping in altering the shape of the body so that the organisms can pass through the narrow passages. Not only that, the myonemes will be helping to glide over the surface because of their contractions and relaxation. They can glide over the surface. And the metabolic movements will be called as euglenoid movements in Euglena, whereas in Sporozoan, the metabolic movements by myonemes are called as gregarin movements. We'll discuss tomorrow class. Thank you.